everybody, and welcome to Friday with Fran. I think you'll probably notice Fran's background is a little bit different today. She's joining us from a different part of her house, and there's a reason for that. But we're gonna go into today's broadcast. I want to tell you a few housekeeping things. Remember, if you are watching and you are live, tell us #live or just give us some sort of signal so that we know that you're here with us. If you're watching it on the replay, give us a #replay. If you like this video, be sure to share it, like the page. If you're watching from YouTube, make sure you subscribe. And if you are watching from the Facebook group, No Limits, Changing the World's Perspective of Special Needs Through IEPs, you will need to give StreamYard, which is the platform I use for this, permission to post. All they're going to post is your picture, your profile picture, and your name. And they are asking for that as a protection for your privacy, because since it is a private group, they don't want to put your information out there until you give them permission. So what will happen if you don't give them permission and you comment from in there, what I will see, it will just say Facebook user. So if you want us to know who you are and you're commenting from that group, I would like for you to give them permission to post those name and profile pictures, or tell me, well, okay, I know who Live from Breeze is. So, so yes, thank you for joining us, Crystal and Michael. And
Greg.
And Greg. Oh, Greg's here? Oh, he's the one that said hi, Shelly and Fran, I bet. All right. So, so we're going to talk about today what makes a great teacher. Now, there are criteria that districts and states use to determine what makes a great teacher. Sadly, I've often found that a great teacher that meets those criteria doesn't always meet the criteria that a parent of a child with special needs would have. So, Fran, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing. I mentally, emotionally, I am all there. Physically, my body is not cooperating. Hence the different background.
Yep.
Kind of like it.
So, Skippy, if we need you, you might have to do some medical help through the computer. I'm not really sure how that's going to work, but I mean, we're all creative and intelligent people. We'll figure it out. So,
and welcome Pauline as well.
Oh, all right. See, so you're in the page and I'm not there yet. I was scooting over there really quick.
I'm in the group, but not on your business, on the other one.
Okay. Well, our business page, my business page, it will show me who the people are. It's just if they're commenting from the Facebook group that I won't see. So yeah, I'm going to pop over there and look. So yeah, we have Colleen and Greg, Michael, and Crystal is joining us. So thank you all so much for being here with us. And I really do mean that, because I was looking for a video just a few minutes before we came live, and there is like 10,000 live videos that you could be watching right now. And I think I mean that literally. It's just an enormous amount. And so that you are choosing to take your time to spend with us today at this moment is awesome. We love you and we appreciate you being here.
Sure do.
So, Michael,
get ready for randomness.
Yes. As you saw, I've already been all over the place. So her body is not doing great, but her mind is there. At least we think, just like mine.
I only have occasional chipmunks. But so you were talking on teachers though, Shelly.
Yes.
And what makes them great?
Yes.
What it kind of, okay, so when I think on that, what comes to mind is almost for me, what fills someone with, where someone finds fulfillment and abundance in the world's eyes, or in God's eyes, or in other people's eyes. It's kind of the same thing. There are different standards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that what you were where you were going with that?
Yep, exactly. Because like I said, there are criteria that districts use to evaluate teachers. There are criteria that organizations use to determine if someone is best at whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, whether it's a best employee or a best customer or a best mechanic or of the year, whatever. So what are some characteristics is the word I'm looking for that you think would make a best teacher?
I think one of the most important things that make a best teacher is that their heart, where is their heart?
Yeah, I would agree. And we have several people with us today, and I would be curious to know what some characteristics are that you think would make a best teacher.
Hi, Mom.
Yep, I saw that she's on here. And none of you have given permission to StreamYard. So unless I'm bouncing back and forth or Fran tells me, I don't know who's commenting what. So because every one of you, it just says Facebook user. So what is something that you think enthusiastic? Okay, that's good. What else do we think makes some good qualities of a best teacher?
Empathy.
And are you going with alliteration already? You went with enthusiastic and empathy?
Oh, did it? Oh, I didn't even. No, my brain's not functioning fast enough to do alliteration today. No,
okay.
I mean, and not even just for a teacher. Hi, Crystalline. Not just a teacher, but anyone to have. Oh, and Emmy's been joining me. She's my emotional support cat, untrained, and she seems to know that my body is not cooperating, so she's been with me all day. But I think just empathy is so lacking. And for those that are unsure of what empathy, or this is my understanding of empathy, maybe I'm wrong on it, but it doesn't mean that you have to agree with them or to believe what they believe is correct, but you can walk in their shoes and see it from their viewpoint and have compassion for them in that. It doesn't mean you agree with them.
Absolutely. And I think, that would apply not just as, mom. She's a slight biased person. But yeah, I think that
Greg's was good too.
I am so like squirrel today. I'm looking at the comments. The mystery tail has a body.
Yes, and a head as well. And a head. Greg, yours is really good. Compassion, commitment, and a willingness to say to the parents like it is.
Yeah. And,
True.
we don't always have to agree. Like you said, Fran, being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, or at least attempt to put yourself in their shoes, trying to understand what it's like. I'm going to tell you, I looked this up because I knew it was in the book somewhere. So for anybody who's joining who doesn't know about my book, those who can't teach, these are 9 true stories of families and individuals who were told you can't have a good life, you can't drive, you won't get married, you can't be happy, you can't read, write, run, whatever. And most of the people that I interviewed were the parents, but I was able to get a few students. And one of the students, I asked him what made the teachers that he felt were great teachers, what were their characteristics. And he says he felt the teachers on the good list seemed to really care about what and who they were teaching. They took time with him and other students, got to know him on a more personal level, tried to help him find things that worked for him, made him feel safe, welcome, and comfortable in their classes. And most importantly, they believed in him.
Mm-hmm.
That
in him. Wow.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. How often in life, even in ourselves, have we craved and desired for someone to believe in us in the midst of what we're doing, just to believe in us?
Yeah. And so often that was what I would hear from my students, is that I was the first person to believe in them. I had a situation a couple of years ago. I wasn't full-time teaching anymore, but I had subbed long-term. Well, it was weird. I should say not long-term. I subbed frequently. A friend of mine was going through cancer, and she had asked me to take over in her room every time she had appointments or wasn't feeling well or whatever. And so I was in her classroom a lot that year. And there were several students in there that I saw could do more than what they were giving out in their assignments. And I said that to this one particular boy many times. I said it to some of the other students as well. And he never really said much during that year that I was in his classroom a lot. The following year, he was in, he got on Facebook, and he friended me. And I had written a note to him on graduation night. And I had told him that I believed in him. And he said that once we connected on Facebook, he said I was the first person to ever tell him that. And that he held on to that card. This was like a year later. And he still had that card. Mm-hmm. And that made me feel so happy that I was able to reach him, but so sad at the same time that he had gone through 8 years of schooling, and no other teacher had told him they believed in him, and they believed in his ability. And not that maybe not that he didn't have teachers that didn't believe in him, but that they had never said that to him, or he just wasn't able to receive it at the time. I don't know what the difference was, but that was what one of the main reasons I think I wanted to be a teacher, is because I had teachers who were great, and they impacted my life, and they made a difference in my life. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to be that teacher for every student that I met. It's right. A little selfish.
No, I don't see it as selfish. I see it as it gave you something to which to strive. And on the days when it was hard, to remind yourself, this is why I'm doing it. And in case you missed it, I'm going to read this one out loud. Greg said, what makes a great teacher? I could have just said, Shelley.
Oh, Greg's another biased person, but thank you, Greg.
And Michael says, love of the job.
Yeah, that's very true. That is very true. And for the students to recognize that, that's what Raymond says. That was out of his chapter. That the teacher, and that's what he says about the teachers that he didn't think were great, was they didn't really seem to care about him, or they didn't even seem to really want to be in their job. And in every profession, you have that. You have people that are there because it's a paycheck, and you have people there because they love it. Right. So sadly, teachers are not exempt from that.
And I think, I think we all have to give ourselves grace. And because we can't always be the best every day, but we can do the best we have within us on each day.
Right. It's a good point.
And we're not perfect, and we're going to fall and fail as teachers, as educators, as parents, as students, as people, as a person. We have our ups, we have our downs, but the important thing is, okay, well, we had a down, so how do we can't look behind us. We have to go, okay, I am here now. How do I move forward?
Right.
Because if we continually, look at, oh my goodness, I can't believe I said that to my child. I can't believe I said that to my teacher. I can't believe I said that to my student, and dwell upon that. You can look at it, learn from it, and grow from it, or you can dwell on it and bury yourself on it and tie yourself up with it and never be able to move forward. That's my thought process on that.
I agree with you on that. Yeah. We can spend way more time looking back and wasting our future and present
Right.
on something that we can't change. Now, we can learn from
Yes.
whatever it was. So in that regard, it's, I think, okay to remember some of those mistakes that we've made. And mistakes don't have to remain mistakes if we learn from them. Then they can become lessons.
Yep. Yep. You got a bunch of good what are those things called? One-liners coming out of this one.
Well, that's good. That's good. I
Um,
need some information for, posts. So
yeah. So okay, so I'm thinking on teachers now, and I'm trying even to think because I had the benefit. I was blessed not only of having wonderful teachers through school. My mom was a teacher, so therefore I was around teachers. So I got to
Mhm.
see teachers just and realize that there's something outside of school. Have you ever seen little kids that they see a teacher outside of the school and they don't know how to respond? They don't realize what is oh, they're in the groceries. Why are they in the groceries?
Yep.
What they have food in their cart because
Yep.
they are so concrete thinking. All they realize think is they should be in the school, and so outside of that, they don't realize that
Yeah.
they have another life. They have a different existence aside from being their teacher.
Yep. Yeah. I have had that experience several times. The first time, a student would see me outside someplace that they didn't expect to see me, like if they invited me to their house for something, that's a little bit different, but it still had that the first time I walked into their house, they're like, whoa, what are you doing here? You don't, that doesn't
Mhm.
what box I have you in.
Right. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna give you this because you didn't say it out loud, so I'm just gonna say it. There's nothing selfish about you, Shelley. That's from
Oh,
Michael.
well, goodness, guys and ladies, this is not about me, but thank you.
But it is because you were a teacher and are a teacher and will always be a teacher.
Well, I'm always trying to be better. And I hope that everybody is always trying to be better because as good as we are, we can always be better.
Yes.
So this isn't like I didn't come up with this idea to say, oh, let's talk about Shelley. I mean,
No,
I appreciate it, but
but Shelley, with the things about what you asked a question and you exemplified those, and I'm sure through your teaching career, there were times that you were not that all the time, but that doesn't make you a failure as a teacher.
right. The people who are watching, I mean, they are a little biased, that know me, I should say. Um,
That
great
are
teachers don't,
commenting. Yes.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, I definitely had my bad days, and I'm sure, I've worked with hundreds of students over the years. I'm sure if you asked every single one of them, I wasn't always inspiring and probably didn't inspire every one of them. But I
You are
tried.
so spot on, Greg.
Great teachers don't necessarily mean all other teachers are bad. There's no cookie cutter approach to really making a meaningful impact to students and all others for that matter. Yeah, exactly. And this is not a teacher bashing
Mm-mm.
session. But
I don't think we've bashed a teacher.
no, I hope not. Um, I mean, not a specific one. I mean, I did use Raymond's words that, the ones who he didn't think were great teachers were the ones that didn't seem to care about him. And that's, again,
But it is the truth, and it is the truth. There are just as much as there are really, really good apples, there are bad apples,
right,
and that's a part of life.
right. It is. And interestingly enough, like I said, if you asked all the students that I've ever worked with, hopefully a huge majority of them would say I was a good teacher, but I'm sure there would be a couple that would say I'm not. Same way for Raymond and his teachers. While he doesn't necessarily think certain teachers were good, I'm sure that there are students who thought that was the best teacher they ever had because there was different type of connection for that student and that teacher.
Correct.
So when you were talking about at the beginning that there are different criteria of what makes somebody good or what makes somebody a great teacher or a great person, that's so very true. And it's weird because it's been something I've been thinking about for a few days now. I had an interaction with somebody, and through this interaction, I found out something about this person that I really didn't know before. Every other thing that I know about this person is positive. But now I have this one negative. So is that person still a good person? In my opinion, yes. But, he's an older gentleman. And so I've been I went through a Bible study a while back of a book called How Good is Good Enough. And so I'm connecting that Bible study with this situation with this man.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking, okay, well, when he passes, is he good enough? Because a lot of people think that's all you have to do is be good enough to get to heaven. But who decides what's good enough? So, sorry, I know that was off topic, but it related to what we were talking to, because like we said, what makes a teacher great? Well, there's 8 people on this call, on this live. So we had different opinions. And that's okay. We're all individual humans. So what makes somebody bad? What makes somebody good? It's one of those terms that needs to be defined specifically sometimes. So if you're joining, and I'm going to ask this for Fran as well, can you remember having good or really great standout teachers of your own, not of your children, but of your own? And while I'm giving Fran a second to think about that.
Well, I don't even have to think.
Oh, all right. Well, then tell me your answer.
Because I had a multitude. I had the benefit of going to school in Germany. It was in a DoD school, Department of Defense school.
Mhm.
So it was varied, and you had varied students as well. And I had a band teacher, a music teacher. She wasn't just band. And we would go to different countries for our band tours. But she demanded excellence, but she empathized when you weren't there.
Mm.
And she pushed and poked and prodded, and sometimes in ways that you might not have wanted, to help you get there.
Right.
But her heart was her job, and her heart was her students, and her heart was in the moment where she was at that time. It wasn't what I'm going to do in the weekend, what am I going to do as soon as the final bell rings, what am I going to. No, her heart was in the moment.
Right.
And she
Yeah.
took her life experiences and used them to help her students excel. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. And I think that's a great approach, because we, like I said, take a mistake and turn it into a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Learn from it and go on. And all of our experiences we can learn from.
Yes.
What went right, what went wrong, what can I do different next time to make it even better?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So for those of you who are joining us, you don't have to put the person's name in if you don't want to. But if you have someone who stands out in your mind as a teacher that you remember that made a difference in your life, or that you thought was just an amazing teacher, tell us why that person was an amazing teacher. I actually have three. I had one in elementary, one in middle school, and one in high school. And I talk about this in the book. There's 10 chapters in the book. I mentioned the 9, and the 10th chapter is my story. And my story, I had a teacher in 3rd grade. My dad had a horrible accident, and that was a long time ago, before cell phones, before the internet, before instant news. And it was over the weekend when I got to school on Monday. I just wasn't my normal self. And my teacher asked me to stay in at recess, and she wanted to know what was wrong. She could tell by my behavior that morning that I wasn't my normal self. And she wasn't just going to go, oh, okay, well, she's just not her normal self, so I'm, just going to move on. She took the time with me. She made school fun. Now, I know you're thinking, well, you were in 3rd grade. School should have been fun. But it was a difference that, I'd had, kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade teachers, and I remember them, but I don't remember them as exciting me about learning. My middle school teacher, a man who was very structured, didn't smile until Christmas. And he said, I eventually got to go back and teach with him. And I asked him why he did that. And he said, because I had to teach, I had to be serious and, not let the kids see the other side until they had the routine down and they had everything down. And I realized that even in his class, his structured class was a way of showing us love, because he had things he was our social studies teacher, and he had things that he wanted us to learn, and he didn't want too much messing around, too much talking, and he held us to those high expectations like your band teacher did. He didn't let anybody just fall through the cracks. He was there. He was pushing us to be the best we could be. And then in high school, it was my chorus teacher. And she taught me to love me for who I was, because I did not like me at all in high school. And she really worked with me to teach me that I was worthy and I should like me. So 3 different people, 3 different ways that they impacted me. So who is this one that says, I did you?
It's your mom.
Okay.
You gonna read it aloud?
Well, I hope she's not talking about me, but she says, I did. You could feel the love of this person for her students. I learned so much from this lady. I still remember her to this day.
And she went on. What? You missed it. She went on. Your mom went on a little bit more.
Oh, she did.
Inspired me so much that when she got sick and had to take time off from school, she asked for me to take her class for the time she was off. I was in the
8th grade at the time. Yeah. So before most people go to high school was the grade that Mom was in at that time. And she was asked to take over her class. And who is this person? Saying, Rita shy. I used to be shy and still am a little. Nuh-uh. She had the confidence in me and cast me in a speaking role in the school play. The rest is history now. You can't get me to stop talking.
And the following one is Greg.
In Okinawa, I had a professor who pulled me aside to tell me the content in my papers I turned in were brilliant. But my grammar was not so good, so she convinced me to take more English classes, to which I did. That's awesome. Those are great stories. Who else? Anybody else joining us that would like to share a story of a great teacher that you personally had? Or now that we've shared those stories, if you would like to share about great teachers that your children had, Fran, do you have more teachers that you want to talk about for yourself?
Oh yeah, can I share this teacher? Because this was a really random teacher.
Okay.
Because some people might think, oh my, I don't know if I would consider him great or eclectic or what, but he had a lot of animals in his classroom. Everything from cockatoos to lovebirds to ferrets to African bullfrogs that ate a cockatoo to
Oh,
he had this really long boa who is now in the, I think she's in the Stuttgart Zoo because she got too long. We were feeding her rabbits by the time we were done because she just was so big.
phew.
Um, yeah, yeah, she was about like this big around.
Oh my
One time
gosh.
I went into the classroom and her name was Rebecca. The snake's name was Rebecca. And Rebecca was out. Someone had left Rebecca out, and she was across a bunch of tables. So I was like, oh my gosh. And okay, so remember I told you my mom was a teacher.
Hmm.
So and she was a science teacher, and this was a biology teacher about whom I'm speaking. And yeah, so in the summers, I always took care of his animals. And I never let on that I really don't care for snakes. And my daughter will tell you, I really don't care for snakes. And so here I'm like, oh, so I'm hollering for the teacher, hey, Rebecca's out. And he's like, okay. And he sends me to the head end of all ends. Get the head, I'll get the tail, because you have to grab at the same time, otherwise she would have wrapped. And
Right.
then we would have been there for a really long time waiting to unwrap her.
Yeah.
So I've got Rebecca's head going, I don't like you, Rebecca, but I like my teacher and I like this guy. So, but but he would start on his door. It said "Beware a frog," because the frog had eaten a bird, and
Right.
he would teach some classes with a tarantula on top of his head. So he made learning fun as you were discussing,
Hmm.
and real. And I may not have agreed with some of the things he taught, but he was genuine. What you saw is what you got. And I think that is
Right.
something really important is so many times we, not just teachers, but I think society sets us up that we feel we cannot be real. And we cannot be real with those with whom we are. We cannot be real even with ourselves sometimes. And that is a travesty in my eyes. And I think that is where so much mental illness comes from because we're trying to put on, we can't even remember what mask we're supposed to have on at
Right.
sometimes. And teachers are trying to put the mask of, oh, I have all these standards that I have to which I have to teach and yet I have these students and I know the student cannot reach these standards in the way they're wanting me to teach them, and I want to teach them this way, but my school district is telling me this. They have so many hats, masks, and and that's why I think I'm going to go back to your heart, where their heart was.
Mhm.
Even if they couldn't, they were juggling which mask or hat to wear, you could always tell where their heart is.
Right. And when I read these statements, comments of what makes a great teacher, or, the people that represent great teachers in our viewers' lives, I didn't hear one of them say they really made history come alive, or they really made mathematics understandable, or they taught the best English classes that I ever had. The theme from all of the comments is how the teacher made the student feel.
And as you say that, isn't that what we all want in life?
Yeah.
We want love and acceptance.
Yep. Yeah. And
And
like you,
and someone to believe in us.
yep. Yeah. I used to tell my students and my families when I first would have them for their initial IEP meeting with me, or more specifically, I would say it when someone was at their child's first evaluation meeting and the team was deciding whether or not to provide the services for the child. And the reason I put it that way is because oftentimes the child is eligible, but the parent doesn't want the child to have that label of being a special education student. And so we would have to decide, does
Mhm.
the child, can we give the child the services? And I would tell the parents, and I remember doing this multiple times, that I wasn't just going to work with their child on academics. I wasn't just going to be focusing on English or math or whatever their specific academic deficit was. Sorry. That I would work with the whole child.
Mm-hmm.
That I would, because I was concerned, because our mental state when we're learning plays a key role in what information we retain. And knowing that information and knowing how important it was when I was growing up for me to feel like the teachers cared about me as a person, I knew that was going to be important to every student who walked into my classroom. So I always tried to make sure that they knew, you are good the way you are.
Mm-hmm.
You are made the way you are for a reason. And trying to help parents be okay with their child learning in a different way. And that's, I always said that the eligibility that a lot of my students qualified for was under specific learning disability. And I changed that to specifically learns differently, because that's what it was. I didn't have a student in my classroom in all the hundreds of students that I saw that didn't learn. Everybody can learn. The amount that they learn, the pace at which they learn, the style in which they learn, all of those things are different. But everybody can learn and is learning.
Learning is ongoing. Learning never ceases. It doesn't stop when you no longer attend school.
Right.
And I really like what Michael wrote.
If a teacher cannot make a connection with the student is less likely to get all out of the lessons taught. That's very true. And I know sometimes that I've said this in workshops that I was directing other teachers, and teachers get scared because they think that connection means that they're going to have to spend a whole lot more time than they're already spending on their classroom to make that personal connection with every single student. And it doesn't take any more time. It really doesn't. It's a matter of looking them in the eyes when you talk to them, talking one-on-one with somebody, asking them how their weekend was, greeting them at the door when they come in and saying, "I'm so glad you're here." And just acknowledging that is a person, first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if it's a kindergarten age person or a senior in high school aged person. It's still a person first. Doesn't matter if that's a general education student or a special education student. And as an adult, we've said it, we all want to be seen. We all want to have our feelings validated.
Mm-hmm. And as you're speaking, what just keeps coming back to mind to me as you're saying that, I think great teachers are teachers that were taught by great teachers as well. They've had a great teacher somewhere in their lives that validated who they were and showed them that they were people and that they had potential and they believed in them, and that helped them to become a great teacher. It didn't make them the great teacher, but it helped them. I think if you look at everyone that that has has reached a high potential in life, they had someone in their life who who they could model after and who believes in them.
Mhm. That brings me back to that student that showed me the note that I wrote him. It it hurts my heart that it's so often just one person. You know, I'm sitting here doing the math of how many teachers most students could go through in their educational career. And the fact that there's just one, that's not even 10%, that's not even this percent. And then to hear that some kids never have that we have to do better. I'm not really sure, you know, if it's just as simple as having a relationship or if there's more to it. It sounds from what we've talked about and what people have told me that I interviewed for the book that that relationship is the thing that sort of elevated people to the next level of good or great or from bad to good. But I feel like, don't you think we need to do better as people? If it's only one person? Or am I being too
Harsh on the
on
field.
society?
On society. I I do we really want to go there? Okay, you open the door. We're
I
going there.
did.
You open the door. I think unfortunately it's not just teaching since we've opened this door.
Right.
We have become so absorbed with being politically correct and being afraid to be true to selves and true to our own beliefs for fear of rejection or retaliation or loss of job, um, that we're all running around with masks and different hats than we really even want to a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, I believe social media has not helped things because
Yeah.
what we see on people's IG and Facebook and Twitter is not always the real them, but we think, oh my goodness, look what this person's doing, and oh my goodness, look at what they've achieved, and da 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 da. And so we see these standards, but how often does somebody really post on social media? I just had the most horrible day in the world, and I no longer want to exist. And no, you don't see those things. You only see the good things. So then, therefore, you think that person only has good things in their life. So then you set that person up to on a pedestal because you think all they do is have good things. So even if they ever mention they have a bad thing, then you're like, oh yeah, that's not really you. But at the same point, then you think I have to achieve. I can never talk about anything bad because no one else ever has anything bad, so it just must be me.
Where's Alex? Because I'm gonna give her word.
She's driving right now, so.
Oh. Balance. Because
Mhm.
I'll be honest, I have people that are friends on Facebook and all they do is complain.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. You're right.
And then I have friends on Facebook that I've had them say, you know, I just don't I just don't want to deal with this anymore. I just don't want to live anymore. I just, you know, and then people tell them, oh, stop saying that. You don't mean that. Well, that's not the best probably response either. Um,
Suck it up, buttercup.
right, right. You know, and
Uh,
I think it's we have to hear what people are saying, whether we like what they're saying to us or not. We have to hear what they're saying, what they're really saying, and not change it. Like I just watched a episode of The Good Doctor last night, and I'm probably 3 or 4 episodes behind. But in that show, that's a niece that is a resident, and her uncle is like the chief of surgery or something. And he really wants her to be a doctor, and she doesn't want to be a doctor. And she says things throughout the several episodes leading up to that one. And I thought, she doesn't want to be a doctor. You know, she's saying it without saying, I don't want to be a doctor, but he isn't hearing it. And then finally she has to very bluntly come out and say, I don't want to be a doctor. Oh, yes, you do. You're just having a rough time. And she's like, no, I don't want to be, you know. And so it wasn't what he wanted to hear. He thought he was motivating her by telling her, you know, it'll be okay. It's just tough right now. Keep going. And a once in a while, I think that's probably the right answer. But if it's over and over again, they're trying to tell you something. And so then it is listening to not just the words, but then the meaning behind the words. But you have to know the person. You have to have that relationship with the person to know if it's a one-time thing or if this is a repeated episode.
And so to take that, a relationship, we don't want to take the time to build relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's risk involved.
There is. You're right. If we let somebody see the real us, they might not have the same high opinion of us.
Mm-hmm. You're opening doors, not only for the good, but to get hurt. And
right.
Is it worth the risk calculation? What is that? I don't know, some business term, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sorry, my word finding is non-existent today.
That's okay.
So.
Is that from Greg?
Yep.
I feel like he's talking about me. I know a certain teacher that shared things I didn't want to hear, but very much needed to receive that feedback. If he's not talking about me, I'm going to share a sort of I don't think it's a secret, but I taught Greg's daughter, and Greg was.
He says I am.
Greg is an amazing dad, first and foremost, and he has a great love for his daughter, and he wanted to do as best for her as he possibly could. And sometimes in wanting to do what he thought was best, he wasn't actually for the long run. So sometimes I had to say, hey, if you keep going down this path, this might happen, or this is probably going to happen. You need to discipline her a little bit. Not that he was a total pushover, but he didn't like to say no to her. And that's a lot of parents. I mean, I don't like to say no to my daughter, you know, as she was growing up. But Greg was always very gracious in receiving whatever suggestion or opinion I gave him, whether he asked for it or not, because there were several times that he did not ask for it and I shared anyway. And he said it some time ago that we made each other better. He made me a better teacher, and I made him a better dad. And together with his daughter's mom and another, set of other people in her life, she is an amazing adult now. And, it was a wonderful experience. It took me learning a lot as well, because she was the first student I had with the type of needs that she had. From Greg's perspective, when he learned that about me, he was shocked, because he didn't learn that until years after I had taught his daughter. He said, I thought you were the expert because you just knew so much. And I just learned, and I prayed a lot and asked for guidance and studied and, just did what, in a way, came naturally to me. Is I worked with her as a person and thought, how would I want to be treated? How would I want some teacher to treat my daughter?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did.
Greg, quid pro quo, and Michael, teamwork.
Yes. Teamwork is so important. And when you have that teacher that you can have that collaborative teamwork relationship with, make sure they know that that's how you feel about them.
Mm-hmm.
Because as we're finding out, it's not every teacher that has that with every student.
Right. And I think that I would like to say that if you don't have this kind of relationship with your student's teacher, it's not too late. I don't think it's ever too late. I
No.
think it's a matter of where are you now and how can you try to develop that, and how can you try to develop that for your child. And a lot of times, especially as we've been referencing Greg and Shelley's teaching parent relationship there, it sometimes we may not have the greatest relationship with the teacher, but the teacher has an awesome relationship with our child. And
Yeah.
we may just have to be okay with that. We may have to go, they are connecting. I don't agree with it, but my child is learning. And I'm just going to have to suck it up and just stay on the outside looking in. As long as my child is learning and benefiting,
Mm-hmm.
they have made that connection. So don't upset that apple cart, even if it means you have to swallow your own pride and allow that relationship to evolve and to grow and to strengthen and to push your child to do the best they can.
Right. And I like what Greg and Michael are saying, that their daughters taught all of us also. And that's the reason for the name of the book, because both of their daughters were told, you can't. They as families were told, you can't. But we all learned so much. I never met Hannah, but I've learned from Hannah because I know Michael, and he's told such wonderful stories, and as well as the struggles that they've had. But anyone who was in contact with Hannah learned love. Anyone who was in contact with Maddie learned love and patience. Maddie has her own timetable. No matter how hard we tried to get her to go faster, she wasn't going to do it unless it was on her timetable. And that's great, because you, on the opposite extreme, you would have people who are always constantly going, and we don't have a problem, or we don't try to change that. So Greg and I had to learn we have to work with Maddie's timetable. Oh, who did I cry? Who did I make cry?
Michael.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is good though. I cried, you cried, we all cried. Oh, wait, no, we didn't. But yeah, I mean, it's just, we can learn from everybody if we give the opportunity to do so.
And I mean, okay, so I'm going to go to your book title. Okay. Everyone is a teacher. Everyone is a teacher, and everyone is a student in life.
Yep. Yep.
And when we realize that we can be taught by everyone, and when we realize we can teach someone, we have purpose.
Yeah. Absolutely. And at any given moment, we're one or both of those roles. We could be teaching someone and learning from someone else at the same time.
And Michael says he's not having sad tears.
I know.
And Greg's trying to. So. Hey, okay, I know this is a real big chipmunk, and we really didn't end this, but I wanted to say that I'm not going to be here with you.
That's true.
Can I go there or not? Do we need?
You may, and I have reached out to one of our two gentlemen on the on the live stream to.
Well, you should put them together. That would be comical. I'm sorry, not comical. It would be powerful.
It would be comical as well, but
It could
yes.
be comical, but it would be powerful because they're uniquely themselves.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
So
so
yes,
may I?
next Friday, Fran will not be with us in this manner. Can you share what you're doing?
Yes
Okay.
or not?
Yeah. No, there's time. Go ahead. I just didn't
Okay.
know. I mean, I thought you could, but I didn't want to have you share if you weren't supposed to.
Oh yeah, I'm plugging it. I'm shamelessly
Okay.
plugging it.
Okay.
Well, for anyone that hasn't been following, I have a son who lives in a group home, and I have a daughter who lives at home, and they're both differently abled, unique individuals in and of themselves. However, my son, because of this COVID thingy, we were not able to have physical contact for over 200 and some odd days.
Mhm.
And the only reason we could have that eventually was because I found a loophole where I could take him to doctor's appointments. Otherwise, we still wouldn't have been able to have it for quite some time until I was finally around Thanksgiving granted compassionate care, which was I was able to touch my son. So I want you to think on that. Not touching a loved one from
Yeah.
COVID shut down till Thanksgiving. It was a really, really long time. So anyway, we're approaching the anniversary of this COVID shutdown for all people in residential long-term care, whether they're, and most people think of the older people, but there are so many younger people, and even younger than my son, who have not, people who need their parents, people who need their daughters, sons and daughters, people who need their husbands and wives, that they haven't had them, and they are dying alone. They are wasting away in their rooms, and we don't fault the facilities or anything like that. So we are having a gathering at the state capitol to raise awareness for this. And this isn't just happening in, are we allowed to say what state we're in?
Yeah. We've said that multiple times.
Okay. Okay. In Illinois, this isn't just happening in Illinois, but we are meeting on March 12th at the state capitol at 11 a.m. if anyone would like to join us there. And we will have 400 yellow signs stating reunite families in long-term care and isolation kills too. It has been on the national news. New Jersey, Florida have already started their traveling signs. Ours will kick off on that day, and then they will travel throughout the state of Illinois
Oh, wow.
to raise awareness of this travesty. For that's what it is. It is a forgotten population of people who are isolated and alone. And so that's where I will be. And I need to focus my attention. I will be going Facebook Live. So I don't know if maybe I can hop in on your StreamYard that day briefly to say hi. We'll see where we are. But so I just want everyone to know, check out it's called Caregivers for Compromise, Illinois Caregivers for Compromise, I think, on Facebook. Anyway, there's all kinds of information. There was a letter writing campaign. We sent yellow envelopes to a gazillion people, and there's always more information there. I'll try to post it in the comments of this video as well when we're done. So that's where I'll be. And we just want change, just like we want good teachers, great teachers, and we know what makes them great. And it's not the education system, it's not the education they get, it's where their heart is.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, I'm not going to add anything to that because that was a great way to wrap everything up. And so thank you all again. Thank you, Michael, Crystal, Colleen, Mom, Greg. Hopefully I didn't skip any. Crystal Lynn. I did.
Thank you guys for your comments.
Yes, absolutely. So you know which one of you I reached out to help me next week. So reach out to me soon and let me know, because if you can't do it, I'm going to reach out to the other guy.
You should have your mom on if either of them can't do it.
Ooh, I don't know, because she'll tell things about me.
Exactly. It would be great. It would be awesome.
No, it wouldn't. All right, everybody. Have a great week. Thank you again. Bye-bye.